Hey everybody, Nike here. I wanted to do a video today to hype up the forthcoming Raid Tournament. If you haven't heard about it, Mighty Teapot is hosting a competitive PvE Raid Tournament on his Twitch channel Saturday and Sunday, November 26th and 27th. I will include a link to his Twitch channel and the tournament website in the description below this video. One cool thing that this tournament is doing that will make the results pretty unpredictable is that the format is that you get 24 players per raid wing divided among the 3 bosses. That means if you use 10 players for one boss, you only have 14 for the other 2, which means you would probably have to do a 7-man kill on each boss. This provides an opportunity for underdog teams to upset the favorites through innovative strategies, but a better overall game plan for the wing as a whole. Teapot has asked me to assist with some shoutcasting duties, so I will be there to provide my unique color commentary and analysis that you all know and love from the dungeon tournaments. Hopefully, you guys will all tune in. So with that out of the way, let's talk about predictions and what I feel the 24-man meta might look like. Taking a step back, I think the safest way to do all 3 bosses is with 8 players on each. It will entail the least risk, and I suspect for most groups this will be close to the ideal. That said, there are definitely a few places where I think you can shave players, and other places where extra players will really help. You can kill the boss without losing too much time and use the extra players, like I said, to make another boss in the wing easier. I think that in Wing 2, it will be very beneficial for teams to shave a player off the bandit trio and complete that event in a 7-man group in order to bring an extra player for Matthias. As the bandit trio is essentially a fixed timer, you won't lose a ton of time going to 7 players so long as you can complete the event without wiping. The extra player you gain at Matthias will help immensely in terms of DPS, and I think it's a very logical place that most teams are going to look for to economize on time. In Wing 3, I believe competitive teams will only bring 7 players to keep Construct. As with good rotations, you should have enough DPS to phase it with 5 orbs and 7 players. I suspect that 7 is more than enough for Escort as well, especially if you have a Mesmer who can use the stealth solo cap tactic to capture all the towers by himself, and you can keep the other 6 players below escorting Glenna. That is an especially high-risk strategy, but if successful, the payoff is quite high. If you're able to pull off both of these strategies consistently, it will allow you to have 10 players at Zera. 10 players at Zera is a big advantage, as 10 players using speed kill strats with a safer than normal comp can kill her with over 4 minutes left, whereas 8-man using strats involving a lot of movement might only have 2 minutes or even less left on the timer. Making up 2 minutes of time could be hugely important at any single boss. So what do I expect the 8-man teams to look like? Well, the first place to look would be raid-selling guilds. Plenty of raid-selling guilds are pretty consistent with their 8-man kills and can one-shot most of the bosses, so I think their setup is a good starting place to look. The 2 most popular setups seem to be 6-1-1 and 5-2-1. In both cases, that last 1 is usually a Magi's Druid. Magi's Druid is especially great in low manning since it produces enough grace stacks while in Celestial Avatar to cap all 8 people at 5 stacks pretty well. But in a low man group, you will also, with that Magi's Druid, have reasonably high spotter uptime on the entire party. In both setups, the Mesmer is in another subgroup and will be either alone or with a Revenant respectively. Personally, I don't believe a Revenant is worth it in the sub-squad with a Mesmer since it soaks up alacrity and quickness and prevents the DPS group from receiving as much of either as they could. I think 6-1-1 is most likely the best bet. You would want to bring one Phalanx Warrior who is spec'd for lots of might, say Strength Runes and Dumplings, or a Condi PS with Dumplings and Smoldering Sigil, as this will allow you to bring 5 DPS characters. It's actually enough DPS characters that many teams may consider replacing one of them with a semi-healer, like a Condi Druid, or a Dagger Warhorn Berserker Shout Oromancer. This extra bit of support from a half healer, half DPS character can go a long way towards smoothing out runs. A Hammer Guardian or Revenant in this slot is also quite a strong option, and I would expect to see a lot of teams bring those. I think safer than normal comps, at least in the first few rounds of the tournament, will be definitely the way to go. Now, why do I think that? Well, the reason I think that is because the cost of wiping, if you wipe once, you're losing up to 4 or 5 minutes. Well, you're way better off killing the boss 30 to 45 seconds slower than a speedrun comp, so long as you don't wipe. If you can one-shot all the bosses with a safer comp, that you'll be way better off than a team with a speedrun comp that wipes once throughout the raid wing. So I do think you're going to see things like Hammer Guardian or Revenant, even in, or half healers like the Dagger, Warhorn, Berserker Shout, Oromancer, even in speed clear guilds. However, I think as the tournament progresses to the later rounds, you're going to definitely see more teams using more YOLO strats as to advance in the later rounds. You're going to really need to bring your best. Alright guys, so those are my initial thoughts. Let me know in the comments below if you'll be tuning into the tournament and what your predictions for the team comps and builds and strategies will be. If you guys have any crazy strats or weird builds that you think people will unveil, I'd be happy to hear your thoughts. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time and talk to you soon.